There's one. Right at the boat. Not a great big one, but a nice chunky little pre-spawn smallmouth. Right at the boat. That's where that real soft rod makes a big difference. I mean, he's no monster. He's a little squirrely looking dude, but you know, you get a 4 or 5 pounder, it eats you right at the boat like that. If you got a stiff rod, he's just gonna make one dig and pull right off. So having that real soft parabolic rod, you know, it's kind of a shock absorber when they get it that close to the boat. Allows you to land a lot more fish. Another thing when I'm cranking, a lot of people that fish a crankbait or just get started in crankbait fishing, they think it's you just throw it out and reel it in. There's really a lot of subtleties to it. I try to never have my bait going the same speed for too long. I'm always speeding my reel up, slowing it down, pulling the bait. There's a fish. Pulling the bait with the rod a little bit. There's a little guy. Calmed off. That would have been so much better if they caught him. But I was all pike here a minute ago. But I'm always trying to, I mean, there's a couple ways to get a fish to bite your crankbait, and it's either gonna be a speed change or a direction change. And really the only way you get a direction change is hitting a rock or something like that. But changing your speed, like I said, I'm always reeling faster, reeling slower, pumping my rod, doing something to, you know, create change in that crankbait versus just throwing it out and just, and you can catch some fish just doing this, but you're pretty much gonna have to, you know, hit something and get a deflection to get them to bite like that. So I'm always kind of in and out on my speed. I'll pull the bait a little bit, you know, trying to feel around, worm it through there versus then just steady, straight retrieve. Just never seems to be as good. There's one that feels decent too. What we got here? Our little smallmouth. Just a mean one. It's crazy, a little bit of weather change and all of a sudden they're biting. It was real slick and sunny a minute ago and wasn't getting much action, and little clouds, a little wind, all good stuff for cranking. One of my favorite places to target pre-spawn is either chunk rock or riprap, what have it. Couple things going on this time of year. That rock holds heat, so when you do get those colder nights and temps going up and down a lot, that those rocky banks will stay warmer. And then the other thing is you got a ton of crawfish coming out. You know, when you get that high 40s, low 50s, a lot of those crayfish come out of hibernation, and you know, most of them live in this chunkier rock stuff. Some of them will live in mud banks and around wood and whatnot, but a lot of them live on these riprap banks and stuff like that. So those are just magnets for pre-spawn bass. It's just twofold. You got a little warmer, more consistent water temperature, and then you also got you know, an abundance of crayfish coming out. And another thing about it is that usually those rock banks will have a little bit more of a drop on them than, you know, your sand or gravel banks. So as that water temp's going up and down, those fish can slide up into 2 feet of water or out into, you know, 4, 5, 6 feet of water if it cools off a little bit. So it's just a prime time pre-spawn area to fish, and it doesn't matter, largemouth, smallmouth, they both get on the same stuff here. And like I was saying before, this bank looks deep. I mean, you look at that bank up there, you'd think we were out in 7, 8 feet of water, but it's not. And you know, most guys, they'd throw a DT-6 here, but honestly, most of the fish, I believe at the moment, are, you know, sitting up in that 2 to 3 feet of water. I mean, the boat's only in 3 feet of water this far out off the bank. And a lot of those riprap banks, they're real deceiving. They look a lot steeper they are, and they flatten out. When I'm fishing that flatter stuff, and I know, you know, if my boat's in 3, I'm not gonna fish anything deeper than 3. So that's where I opt for the DT-4. It just comes through that cover a lot better, and that crankbait just, you know, they run the best kind of at their max depth. So if I'm throwing a 6 and I'm trying to fish in 2 feet of water, when I hit a rock and deflect, rather than a 4 is going to want to swing out and hunt more and be a lot more erratic, that 6 is just going to want to kind of glue back down to the bottom a lot quicker than one that's, you know, running at its max depth like this one, where I'm, you know, we'll have one followed up. There's some fish here. And see, if you can look on the graph, it's only 2 foot deep here, even though it looks like we're on a real steep bank. It's a lot of these riprap places get silted in. There's a reason there's riprap there. It's usually because the bank's eroding, and so a lot of them are a lot flatter than they look. And that's where having a bait that, you know, matches that right running depth, you know, really outperforms, say, a DT-6 in this same scenario. Versus if we were on a, you know, a straight 45-degree bank, that DT-6 is hard to beat because, you know, you're fishing a lot more of that, you know, 4 to 6 foot range, where this, you know, we're really fishing more 2 to 4 foot right here. Like I said, having that bait, you know, its max depth is running where you're wanting to contact bottom and deflect off stuff. It's gonna hunt more, and it's just really gonna trigger a lot more bites than, you know, throwing one that's running a lot deeper than you need. Yeah, nice little smallmouth. Little guy, but the DT-4. Shell, little point comes out right there. A couple feet deep. That's kind of where that 4 plays. Nothing special, but nice little smallmouth.